Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. This, I guess, evening is when I'm filming it. It is Friday evening and it has been, it's been a week. One of those where you feel like you're just sort of making it over the finish line Friday evening. And so I'm getting my video done so that tomorrow morning I can do some yard work early, but also so that I can just collapse in a heap after. And speaking of heaps, I don't know if you can see, I've got one greyhound on the floor here, and then there's one behind the printer on a bed. So everybody's in Friday evening collapse in a heap mode. But I'm here, I'm excited. This is Flosstube 120, which just boggles my mind. I can't believe it's been 120 videos. So thank you all so much for sharing your time with me so many times. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Speaking of sharing, we're jumping right into stitching in action, and we have two great ones this week. First off, we have Sleeping Bee, which is stitched by Belinda. She stitched this on 36 count vintage country mocha using the called for threads, and she finished it in a box from IKEA. I don't know if they still have these. I know a few years ago I saw a couple people doing them, and I actually have never done this finish. Lois from Lady Creates did the model for me originally because I was on the phone with her and I was trying to have her explain to me how I ought to do it. And she said, "Oh, just send it to me and I'll finish it for you." So I did. She finished it, and I have never done one of these, so I should probably talk to Belinda and see if she can walk me through it. But as I said, I don't know if IKEA still has these boxes or if they're still available. I know there are other circle needlework boxes that you can get, but I have loved the ones that I've seen with this finish in the box top, and this is obviously no exception. I really like the corded thread around the edge. I think it came out beautifully, so thank you so much, Belinda, for sharing that with us. Then next we have Bumble Bear. Bumble Bear is a favorite design of mine, so I'm always very glad to see him finished up. And Samantha stitched Bumble Bear and did it as a stand-up, which I have not seen. So I really appreciate that. I think it's a lovely finish for Bumble Bear. She used 32 count Pampas linen from Picture This Plus, and she used Classic Colorworks Bramble Bush for the main bear color. So that's the main, I think, probably the called for on the others, but that's the main substitution. She and I have been emailing back and forth on this. She used Doll Maker's polyfill for the stuffing, which I guess is different from the kind of polyfill I've used in the past, particularly because you don't have to get it into fine little chunks. You can really pack it firmly. It doesn't compact. It's meant for toys that are going to be crushed and tossed around, and so it's meant to hold up to that a little bit better, and it doesn't shrink the way that the other kind of polyfill or even walnut shells or something like that would. So I'm definitely going to try some of that, and it will come up in discussions for one of the Jingle Ball classes as well. So look for some tips on that. And excellent from Samantha. She sent me the photograph so I know exactly what to get on these. She also finished it with the black palms from Lady Creates to mimic his little antennae. So I think that's just wonderful. Thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing your great finish. As always, if you have stitched a blue flower design, I would really love to see it. Just drop me an email with a picture and I will be very happy to share it here and on the website. Speaking of the website, I've got a quick announcement. The website has been transitioned over to the new platform, so you'll notice that it looks a little bit different, and the stitching in action is one of the areas that I have to catch up with some of the things that didn't get transitioned over. So I will be working on that. If you had something up there and you don't see it, that's why. So I'll be doing some catch up on those, and I'll be making some changes as I get a little bit used to the new platform. But it's exciting to have that done, so it should work more smoothly, particularly as we head into the Jingle Ball and for some of the international things as well. On to what I'm stitching. Well, it's just been nothing. I haven't been stitching anything. I want to say it's been models, but it hasn't even been that. I've just been kit planning for Jingle Ball, and I'm still hoping to sneak in one more for winter releases. I'd really like to do a Merry Menagerie the way I did last year, and that's the last one that I might be able to get in before winter, but I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to pull it off, so fingers crossed, we'll see. But I do get to stash Spotlight. Even if I can't stitch, I can still stash. This is one of my favorites, an Ode to Libraries from Heartstring Samplery. Let's see if we can get a really good look there. I particularly like this one. I have a soft spot in my heart for libraries. I always have. It was my safe space growing up, was the library. A very close friend of mine is a librarian, and actually she just finished cutting all of the pieces of backing fabric and interfacing and things. If you do get a Jingle Ball kit, or if you're at the October retreat, she will have cut everything but the linen for you. So this one does make me think of her quite a bit. One thing that I didn't notice when I purchased it is that this motif here on the bottom is a book. I was so busy looking at the quote and the beautiful flowers and all the things springing out of the pages, I didn't even recognize that it was a book at the bottom. So anyway, libraries have been on my mind. I love this, and it's one of my definite favorite stash items. So that's my stash spotlight. On to World Around. This video I chose heather. And as background, we have in this house, well, not in this house, in our yard, a number of heather shrubs, and there's one particularly healthy, large one in our garden. And my husband and I have had sort of a back and forth debate about this one since we moved in almost, because it's behind the fence. It's in the garden, but it's behind the fence where it's safe from the dogs and where I do the gardening because it's safe from the dogs, but it's very healthy and large. And so I've been lobbying hard for having it taken out, and he has just finally agreed that we could take it out, since that behind the fence space is at a premium and I really want it to grow things. So that's my big yard work project this weekend. I am taking out that heather shrub, but I thought it would be a really good opportunity for me to learn more about heather. I've had heather at a lot of the houses I've lived in, just randomly. I think it's just a very common plant here, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to learn more. So what have I learned? It is a shrub in the heath family, famous particularly in the landscape of Scotland. It goes back quite a ways in history. It was used to make brooms, most commonly, which is the source of its scientific name from the Greek word for brush. It has been used as fuel, as animal fodder, as building material, and even for making ropes, which is a little bit surprising to me. I find it hard to think that you could do that with heather, but maybe it's because where we tend to have it here, it's always been a little bit shorter, and I think in habitats it likes a little bit better. You get longer stems, and maybe that would be easier. I don't know. In the Middle Ages, it was also used to make yellow dye and to tan leather. It was used to make beer before hops became more widely available, and apparently there's a legend that not only were the Pictish people very famous for their heather ale, but that a Pictish chief not only died, but sacrificed his son and then died himself rather than give up the recipe for heather ale to a conquering army. I don't know that any ale would be worth that, but maybe it was just that good. I find that hard to imagine, but you know, legends, who knows? Heather honey is valued today, especially in Scotland, but ancient Greeks thought it was quite unhealthy and bad because it has a strong taste and a very thick texture because of the qualities of the heather that it comes from. A lot of heather landscape is actually somewhat artificially maintained these days, either through its introduction as a non-native species. I understand in New Zealand and Australia it's become really invasive, or through areas that have been cleared and letting heather take over. It is a native plant in some areas and a very useful native habitat for certain birds in New Zealand. The red grouse feeds primarily on heather, and a number of other birds specific to the highlands use it as habitat, but it's very good at living in a lot of different conditions, anything from bogs to, obviously here, very arid conditions at high elevations. So you can see how if you had an area that was cleared, it could move right in and take over everything. It can tolerate difficult soils, again, from bogs to arid landscape and cold weather, all the way up from sea level to high elevations. So that's why it is very happy here in our dry, high elevation, high desert garden. Let's see. It is a symbol of good luck, especially white heather. Heather tea has been used to treat coughs. Heather ointment has been used to treat rheumatism. And even heather flowers have been put in the mattress because they give a relaxing and pleasant scent. So we're keeping several of the heather shrubs in our yard, but I am taking this one out and I have no regrets. It's going to be room for strawberry pots instead. So, but at least in the meantime, I know a little bit more about it. All right, on to questions. The last video, the question was, do you write in your cookbooks? And it was a very polarizing thing. People either do or they don't. Nobody seemed to be in the, yeah, sometimes, but not really very often. So that was interesting to see. Question this video was, what was your safe place if you had one growing up? As I said, mine was probably the school library. My dad was a school principal, so I was at the school quite a bit, and the library was the place that was just, yeah, that was a safe place. I'm not great with people. I never have been, and I could just go to the library and hunker down between the big bookshelves and get a book and read for hours, and nobody would bother me, and that was probably my favorite place. So I wondered if you had something similar when you were growing up, or indeed now. On to best things. Best thing this video, Fat Bear Week is underway. I love it. They just wrapped up the Fat Bear Week Junior, so see who was the chunkiest young bear, and you can vote online in the Fat Bear Week Stakes to see who is the very largest bear prepared for winter this year. On to giveaway. Last video was this beautiful Moonlit owl chart from Puntini, and it comes with this button here of the owl. Keyword was moon, and the winner is at Betty Larks 8134. So Betty, if you want to drop me an email with your mailing address, I will get that in the mail to you. This video, this is in honor of Sampler September, probably my most traditional, getting a traditional one in at least. This is Hannah Gilpin, 1800, from StitchyBox Samplers, and I really like this one. I like that it has these very traditional Quaker elements around the outside, but the inside is these more wild florals, which I find a lot, yeah, I find it really fun. I think it would be great if you wanted to pick a single color and do the whole thing, but it would also be really easy to do a mix of complementary threads if you wanted to do, you know, the outside Quakers in one color and the inside florals in different colors. I think it would be fun to personalize. It is on the larger side, 282 by 286, but not overwhelming, and like a lot of them, you can do one motif at a time. So that's the giveaway. Use the word September in your comments, and you could just sneak it in before the end of Sampler September. Not that a change in the month ever stops us from stitching whatever we feel like stitching, does it? All right, on to announcements. I feel like I've been kind of rushing towards announcements because I'm so excited to share. I get to share my Jingle Ball classes. I am very, very excited about this. In fact, I went down to the printer at the end of the workday today because they just finished doing the color matching for the chart, so I got the models back. So, all right, I am teaching 2 classes at the Jingle Ball. The first one is a Biscornu class. I've taught a Biscornu before, but I wanted to do another one because it's such fun. It's one of my favorite finishes, so thought I'd take the opportunity. This one is called Winter Woods Biscornu, and it's not super wintry. I did put these sort of snow-covered peaks around the outsides, and it's definitely very woodsy. This isn't specifically Christmas-oriented. So we've got an owl here. Let's see. We've got a fox. See which way I'm going. We've got a lynx. I had a lot of fun with that one. And then a weasel here. It's accented with a lot of trees coming up. You can kind of see them coming up these sides. I get the picture to show the right way here. The trees coming up. We've got different birds. We've got berries and some pine cones happening. And then in the center, we've got a wooden button. These are actually harvested in Vermont by a lady who collects them. So I'll make sure I'm putting in the emails some more information about that. But this one was just, it was really fun to do. I had so much fun doing the different animals, and I really enjoyed working on this. I have the marvelous Chris Canaday doing the model stitching on this one. The kits are 32 count linen, so it's a chonky one. And yeah, that's the first class, how to do that. Then the next one, this one's a bit of a wild card. I'm calling it Christmas Carousel, although it's more specifically winter, I suppose. And the main thing for this is I wanted to do a set of little like quasi ornaments. But I wanted to do a little stand that would kind of spin, and hence the carousel idea. And so this is what Matt, Beth's husband, came up with. And it's, look at this beautiful stand, and they spin around. And so I've got all these animals. These are warm weather animals that you would find at the zoo. And one of my favorite things about this is they're attached with magnets. So he inset magnets into the base for me, and so you'll get little magnets on these. They've got just little plaid fabric on the back, get some wool roving. Now the stand that comes with the kit on these, isn't that pretty, is unfinished, so you can finish it in a number of ways. I've got some of my practice ones here because we had various templates. This was one of the early ones that doesn't have the magnets in it, as we were practicing different designs. This is another one that is done with wood stain and not painted, and this one I glued the magnets underneath. They weren't inset, so you can see some of the different options there. So the kit comes with the unfinished stand and full instructions on how to finish. The fun thing though is, if you get the PDF and you aren't able to get a kit, you're going to be able to pre-order in some way, and we're still working that out, the stand from Matt directly. They don't know yet. He and Beth haven't figured out yet, and it will depend a little bit on how many people want them, when those will be available. But they won't be available to the general public at all for at least a year. So possibly they will be available before the Jingle Ball, possibly right after the Jingle Ball. We're kind of waiting to see. Anyway, just letting you know that that's one of the options. So those are my two kits for the Jingle Ball. We've got the Animal Biscornu, which is not specifically Christmassy, but was super fun. And then we've got the little wee spin around with these little animals. You can see, got a whole bunch of different festive animals here. Also with this one, once you had the stand, you can put scissors and things in the top. And since it's on magnets, if you had other ornaments you wanted to finish or other seasonal displays, you could finish them with magnets and just swap them out for different times of year. So those are my two classes. October 17th is the sale date. One more announcement. I have a lot of announcements this time. Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit at Acorns and Threads 2026 is going to have 3 presenters, and I am going to be one of them, along with Steph from Lindy Stitches and Paulette Stewart from Plum Street. So you get 3 of us. We have already started talking about designs, and I've been biting my tongue so hard not to tell people that I get to go do that again. I'm so excited. So those are my announcements. All of the good stuff. It's appropriate, I think, for the 120th episode. But that's it. That's all I have. We have a brief puppy video at the end, and I am going to do the edits here, and then, as I said, collapse in a heap. And then tomorrow I'll be attacking that heather and shifting heavy pots around. So I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope your week is over or close to over and you get a chance to rest. And I look forward to chatting with you again in a couple of weeks. Talk to you later. Bye.